Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Good morning. Today we're going to be talking about the Vararam cold air intake, or air grabber I should say, and how it does on the Ram Rebel right behind me. So this is video number 3 on my cold air intake series, and just basically going over whether they work, whether they don't work, and if they make a difference at all, if it's worth your money, or if it's all just one big lie. So if you haven't seen those videos, I'll put them in the description, or the links in the description. And if you have seen them and you're back, thank you so much. Appreciate the support. It's taken me a while to put it together, and just, I've been pretty busy with life in general. And so we're just gonna get right into it. It's already installed. I've been driving it for a couple weeks, and so far it drives different for sure. No, I don't want to spoil it, but it definitely drives different, and I'll get into that a little bit more later on in the video. So for right now, we're gonna go ahead and pop the hood, get into it, go over a couple things that I noticed, or a couple things that I want to talk about. We'll get into how it sounds, then we'll get it on the dyno. After the dyno, we'll break down some of the numbers, take a look at the graph, see what it does, and then, I don't know, maybe it makes a difference, maybe it doesn't. Stick around and find out. So there it is, right there, exactly what it's supposed to look like. Couple things that you're gonna have to do. Biggest thing is gonna be take off the plastic cover that goes here. It's held on by those little plastic like body panel clips. So this is what they look like. That's the bottom piece, and then there's the top piece that clips into it. So I have this little kit right here for body panels and all that other good stuff. Amazon, pretty cheap. This piece right here, just went in there, popped it right out, easy breezy. Save all your pieces, that way if you want to put it back sometime in the future, then you can, which is important, because what you can do is basically cut it around this piece that goes here, and then it'll be able to sit flush, and then you'll still have that cover here if that's important to you. So that's the first thing that you got to do. The other thing that you have to do is take off the engine cover. I don't know if you guys can see it back there, but the engine cover is gone. That's 2 bolts. One goes there. There's a little post up there. There you go. And that one right there. 2 little bolts, and then it clips into the back there somewhere. You pull it out. As far as removing the actual air intake, it just sits here. And this is where I had the other one sitting, so you just pop that out. You got a couple of clamps that you remove. I really gotta get on the other side. So then to put this one on there, you basically have that tube right there. You got 2 clamps, one down there, one a little further up. You can't really see it. You put in your sensor in the back right there. And there is another like air inlet or breather hose that goes onto the stock one, and that also went on to the AFE. For this kit, you remove that, and then you basically install that piece right there, which is their little air breather. After that, you go ahead and mount this piece on there after you put these 2 together. So, whoops, that's terrible camera work right there. You attach this piece to this piece, and it's meant to kind of block air that's coming in through the front and divert it in there. That's kind of the idea behind it. So you put those 2 together, put this one on there, push it down. Don't push it down all the way. You have to leave it just a little loose, and then you bring down the hood, and then the hood just kind of compresses on it, so that way it sits flush with the hood. And you can even see right there where this piece is rubbing on it a little bit. So I definitely have a pretty snug fit. Then tighten up your clamps, and off you go. The manufacturer recommends that you disconnect the battery before you do this, and then reconnect it. Well, it says that it'll take you about 15 minutes or so. It took me about half an hour, just because I'm a little slow. But yeah, 15 minutes, half hour tops, and you are done. So a couple things that I wanted to call out on it. The number one thing that bothers me about this kit is that air breather right there. I just don't like the look of it. It's kind of cheap. It feels cheap, I guess. And you know, it's an air breather that you can get at AutoZone or O'Reilly's. And I'm just not feeling that look. Just not into it. So I don't really care for that. The other thing that I really don't care for is the fact that you do have to remove the engine cover and this cover right here. Not a big deal, I know, it's all under the hood, but you know, once you start removing stuff like this and then you lose it or you just don't put it on there, it just doesn't look as clean and it's incomplete, and I don't know. I prefer something that leaves everything stock as possible. So I don't really like that. And the third thing that I don't like is the quality of some of the pieces, especially that tube right there. It's rigid, it's fine, but it's just feels kind of cheap. The cuts on it, it doesn't feel like it's like a proprietary product. It feels like it's just a tube that you can get at Home Depot, and they measured it and cut it and it works, but it's almost like a garage DIY kind of feel to it, and I'm just not feeling it, honestly. It feels kind of cheap. So yeah, those three things I don't really care for, and I know I'm being nitpicky. I know I'm being just very nitpicky, right? But you know, like stuff like this, right? It's like for the doors, right? The seal for the doors that they cut and glued on here, and off you go. And so that part, stuff like that, kind of bothers me. So you know, if you're just kind of weird like that, like me, then stuff like that might bother you, because it bothers me a little bit. But what I do like of it, what I do really like, is the look of it, because that is that old school look right there. All black on black, big old air filter. It's a little loosey-goosey, but I think it just, you know, once the hood's on there, it's not going anywhere. It does have a really good look to it. So, you know, that part of it I really do like. This part being here and covering up everything that's supposed to be getting there makes me a little bit nervous, but there's still plenty of air to be had down there, so I think it's okay. And I haven't had any issues with it so far. So now, let's see how it sounds. So I will say this, the exhaust on it doesn't really change very much, and that's, I mean, if you think it's going to change a lot just by switching up the cold air intake, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. But the intake on it does sound pretty cool.
That sounded promising.
That sounded really good.
Yeah,
right?
The red one almost looks like you're getting, possibly getting knock retard from the fuel.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Do another one the exact same, Devin. Alright. So we have back to back connections.
How did that one feel?
Great.
Yeah.
And it seems to be able to hold the gear with this. I think you might be right though. With this intake, it seems to be able to like hold the gear and not try to grab right away.
That's what I was telling him, is that I don't know if it's in my head, but I feel like when I'm driving it around town and I'm just like mashing on it, it stays in gear longer and I just get into the higher RPMs. But
I just like it better.
I don't know if that's in my head or...
Right here, I think that's just where he's crossing from part throttle to wide open. He just did a little later here, but it's tracking the exact same horsepower and torque.
Yeah, because I'm not stabbing it right away.
It's a little tiny bit down on the very top, about 2 horsepower, but that's just going to be heat. Green is your before.
Was that the green was the AFE from last time?
So it looks like this one has a little more mid-range. And the AFE has a tiny bit more peak. So basically from here.
So this one just kind of gets into it a little
it's going
sooner.
to be heat related because it's already dropping. Today's probably hotter than the last time we got out of the truck.
Yeah.
So these right here might be spark knock from not having. I don't. They'll probably go away with 91.
Okay.
Is it on 89 with the other intake too?
Yeah, I've been doing mid-grid on all of them. So this one, it looks like it's just got a little bit
Has a little more mid-range.
more mid-range.
Torque, a little tiny bit less top end horsepower.
But we might be losing some of that because it's a little warmer.
It's hotter today than the last time.
Yeah. Huh. So then it's not
The problem
so
was
much.
on the other one, it was we were letting it grab the. We were downshifting from 6th to 5th. You want
Yeah.
to try that? Let it go into 6 and then stab it and see if it'll grab 5th instead of 4th. See how confident he was?
right. He's like, I don't know.
Trying to make it apples to apples without transfer control is real hard.
Yeah. I feel like it didn't like that.
Well, the problem is it grabs 5th and then it's almost, it goes right to fucking red line and it wants to shift. See how tight it is here?
Yeah. And is that when he's getting on it?
No, he's on it here.
Oh, okay.
Wide open. That's why you see the torque peak right here. That's him in it. That's wide open throttle right here. Where they're even at this point. And then that looks like spark knock.
Okay.
So the computer's actually pulling timing right there on the field that it's on.
Okay.
Which is common if it has an intake without a tune, something like that.
Is it?
Yeah, because you have a little bit more airflow, so it'll lean the vehicle out a little bit.
Okay. So on this one, we're looking at
5
peak.
to 6 horsepower. 317 horsepower and 327 torque.
I can't remember what the numbers were on the last one, but it seems pretty close,
I had it up. It is very close.
Yeah, I think probably within 5.
right? Which is kind of within the noise, right? Because the temperature and,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like a huge difference in peak, but it just seems
Yeah.
like you get
That one does
more
seem to
mid-grade.
have a lot more in the mid-range though.
This one seems like it has more torque, and the other one has a tiny bit more peak top end.
Much I mean a truck. Daily driving.
See
torque is
304,
what-
308.
torque is what we want.
Yeah.
So for daily, I mean, with more mid-range and more torque, I think I'm just going to keep this one.
You definitely have more torque
Yeah.
in mid range. This
that
one,
Yeah.
would be my.
forward right here. You actually have more top end too.
This one?
Red versus blue. On the very top, they're even about here. They're both wide open.
Red is our latest pull. This pull today.
Red's today. Blue is our best ever with the other intake.
So it's
Oh.
even got a little bit more peak.
Obviously, he wasn't floored here. That's why
Right.
the gap's so big. We were just getting the top end numbers because the trans kept downshifting.
But even top end, I feel like it's behaving different. Like it's just
It
more
is.
cooperative.
You have more power on top. 314 versus 294.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, I would say, this one's a.
Winner.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, son of a gun, it's not all just like snake oil.
No, they'll actually make a difference.
So the first thing I want to talk about is the power numbers, because obviously that's what we're all concerned about. So Vararam claims, I'm pretty sure they claim a bump of 30 horsepower, which is a huge bump. That is a huge claim. But if you notice, they claim a bump of 30 horsepower, but not peak horsepower. I'm pretty sure it doesn't say peak horsepower. And that's important to keep in mind. So ultimately, you know, some of the final numbers that we looked at were up against some of our best runs with the AFE Momentum GT. So you'll see that it has a bump. It has a little bit more peak horsepower. I can't remember exactly the numbers, but I'll put them up in the side over here somewhere on the screen. But it does have an increase in peak power over the AFE Momentum GT. Not a lot, but a little bit. Where it really made a huge difference was in the mid-range, and you'll definitely see that in the graph. Based on some of the numbers that we saw, there was a significant bump over that cold air intake in the mid-range. And that's that the AFE had a bump over bone stock. So are you going to see plus 30? I would say that you probably could. I think that those numbers are right. You'll see plus 30. You could see, well, I shouldn't say you will. You could see plus 30 in the right scenarios. And so, do you get more power? Yes. Does it work? Yes, 100% yes, it does work. It does make a difference. And that's on a dyno. I would imagine that on the highway, just because of the way that it works, it funnels the air in and just kind of rams it in there, or grabs it, whatever. I think it's probably going to work even a little bit better, maybe. Point number 2 is kind of coming from point number 1, the mid-range power. So I don't know if you noticed in the video, and especially compared to the other videos, it was incredibly easy to get these runs in. I think we did 3, maybe 4. Rolled into it, hit it, got the numbers, done. The truck didn't downshift the way that it normally likes to do. Now before we did the runs, we were talking, and I mentioned to the guys that I've noticed in daily driving that the truck stays in gear and it stays in the power band longer. So I'll be getting onto the highway, I'll be doing whatever, and I get into it, and normally it would downshift. It was downshift. And I haven't done any kind of tuning to the truck. I haven't messed around with any of that. All I did was throw in the air grabber, and it stays in the power band longer. So going up the hill, merging, quick acceleration, you know, normally it would shift, you know, I'd want to shift at about 4,000 RPM-ish, kind of depending on load. But now 45, 47, you know, 49, 5,000 RPM, it's staying in it longer. And so I feel like I'm tapping into the power a little bit more. So I thought that was just all in my head. I was like, well, you know, because when you install something and you tell yourself that it's there or whatever, it's kind of a placebo effect. You're like, you know it's there, so you're going to drive a little different. But after a while, I was like, no, this is definitely driving different. So anyway, they did the runs, and 1, 2, 3, done. It was super easy. And so for me, my experience was that this air intake has changed the way that the truck drives. Either way, I think that's part of the reason why so many people on Facebook, so you know, Instagram, social media, love this thing. They swear by it. And I think that's why. It gives you more mid-range power. That's probably where you're going to see your plus 30, not at peak. And it just stays in the power band longer. It feels awesome. And the third thing, right now gas is expensive. Ooh, gas is expensive. Did this make a difference in my miles per gallon? I haven't noticed much of a difference, honestly. I think I'm averaging in the high 13s, low 14s right now, and that's in the city. You know, a little bit of highway, a little bit of city. That seems like that's around on par on what I've seen from what everybody else is posting. So I don't really think it makes that big of a difference as far as the fuel economy goes. So I hope you guys liked the video. If this helped at all, make sure you give it a thumbs up, support the channel, maybe subscribe. If you disagree or you have something that you want to say, put it in the comments down below. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.